Welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast, where today's thought leaders discuss how they're using the latest social media strategies and technologies in marketing, sales, customer service, and HR. Get ready to be inspired as our guests contribute to your digital transformation through their stories, knowledge, and insights into what works in today's digitally connected world. And now, here's Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast.
Hey there, welcome to episode 131. I'm Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. Hey, thanks for listening. On this episode, you're going to meet Chelsea Hunersen, Social Media Marketing Manager at HubSpot. Chelsea participated in a panel that I moderated at Content Marketing World on B2B live video. We recorded this podcast at Content Marketing World shortly after that panel session. Now, this episode is sponsored by Trax. In Social Business Journal Volume 8, Trax explains the 5 biggest mistakes in social media monitoring and how to overcome them. Download this journal at socialbusinessengine.com/Trax, and that's TRACX, or you can get the link in the show notes from this episode. And now, let's get to my interview with Chelsea Hunersen from HubSpot. Well, Chelsea, welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast.
Thank you for having me, Bernie. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, of course, we're recording this at Content Marketing World, and we just finished doing our panel session, which was a whole lot of fun on live video.
Yep.
So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to sit down and share with my listeners what HubSpot is doing with live video. So why don't I just give you that open-ended question you responded to on the panel?
An open-ended question, sure. So the quick rundown of HubSpot is a marketing software company. We specialize in something called inbound marketing, which is kind of a variant of content marketing. The similar concept is you are creating content with the goal of having a content piece on the internet that you own that drives people to your website or drives them to your business, drives them to learn more, whether that's a blog post or a ebook or a white paper, and now whether that's a video. So at HubSpot, we do a lot of this marketing. We create a lot of content. And we've been doing this for many years, but we have been creating it for marketers because we're a marketing automation software company, right? I have the most meta job in the world. I market to marketers. Yep. And we've taught a lot of people how to do a lot of really simple things in marketing, like creating and having a good Facebook page or, writing a good blog post. But I think, one of the things that we were talking about today is that marketing has changed a lot in the last couple of years, which is why we all continue to learn through podcasts and learn through, these events. But it hasn't changed so much that we're reinventing everything that we're saying every time. So what we're trying to do with video is adding a new level of complexity, a new level of depth and dynamic content to what we're already creating. We're allowing you to kind of get inside the mind of what we're thinking at HubSpot. So whether that is talking about some of the topics that we've written about with thought leaders or influencers, whether it is taking people behind the scenes of some of our podcasts that we create, for example, and showing people the actual video aspect of it. We have also done things like we have a blog post about improv and how improv is good for marketers. So we brought that to life, and we actually took people to a live improv class and showed that really on Facebook. That allows us to take what we're actually writing about and put it into just a really new way to experience that content, and that's what we're working on right now.
Okay, so I want to give you a chance to take a breath.
Yes. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer there.
So, as you know, we've talked about this before.
Yes.
HubSpot TV was around in the ancient years of inbound marketing.
Yes.
Now, that was live video.
Yes.
But very different than today's live video. So the examples that you just described, I just want to be clear for my listeners that we're talking about live video using a mobile device or even an external camera. So maybe you can talk a little bit about like when you do a live video of any sort. Yep. What's it look like? What's that whole process look like?
Sure. So I think when we're doing a live video, We've started actually planning this out more than we used to. We will take a look at who we have, we'll take a look at what we want the angles to look like and the questions that we want to ask. But then when we kind of have all of that information together, we'll actually let it be live. We'll actually let it run very fluidly. We want people to interact. We want them to have fun. Then when we look at the setup of it, we do kind of one of two different setups. One is the really casual setup. So we have the phone, if we're doing Facebook Live, for example. We used to do Periscope. When we did that, we also used a phone. And we will hold it up or prop it up on a tripod, and we'll go ahead and point and shoot and make the magic happen on screen.
Okay.
And sometimes we have also experimented with a more professional, one might say, setup where we have a camera, and that camera plugs into a converter.
So when you say camera,
Yes.
you mean like an XLR or something like that?
Yes, exactly. So kind of a consumer grade version of
Okay.
a professional camera.
Okay.
And that usually has some XLR plugs, so we can plug in mics if we want to. And then we run that through a converter, and we can run that to like an open broadcaster studio is a free software that you
Right.
can use to actually convert that to Facebook as well. That we might do depending on what we actually want the look to come off as. If we wanted to have a casual conversation feel, we might do just more of the
Right.
the video, versus if we want it to be really, this is professional newscaster, this is what it's set up to be, we might do it a little differently.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the business case, right?
Yes.
So you know that I have a live video called Poolside Sales Chat.
Yes.
And so for my listeners that maybe have never caught that, that's just, I do it every Friday afternoon. I do it by my pool, and I do about a 10-minute live video on some sales topic, related to social selling. So that's one topic, right? And it's basically one show. But you guys aren't doing that, right? You're doing all kinds of live videos. So what are some of the business use cases you're doing?
Sure. And that's a really good question, because I think that it's a lot of times still hard to define what that business use case is. For us, it is at this point adding just a layer of complexity to the content that we're already producing in hopes eventually that we'll be able to drive back to that original content. So if we are creating content that is really good interview content with an influencer, we might be able to drive back eventually to a blog post that they've talked about or an event that they're doing or something like that. At the moment, what we're really focusing on is just getting that good video content and getting the engagement. The next step is, for those of us who are in the world of demand generation, is figuring out how to leverage that ultimately.
Right,
as well.
right.
Yeah.
So how much, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but how much focus is there on demand generation with regard to your live video strategy?
Right. Demand generation isn't the back of mind for me for everything I do. Perhaps front of mind is what I should probably say. But even, I think with video, we have a little bit of flexibility right now in that we're still trying to figure it out, as everyone else is, and we're trying to create just really good content. Eventually, everything, we think about it like a funnel, right? So we want to be in front of the right people. We want to be shared. We want to be liked first. And then the next step is, obviously, once you like us a little bit, we want to see if we can get you to engage, get you to click, whatnot. So I don't think we feel immediate pressure right away to put that demand gen link in someone's face. But what we would like to do is use that video as an introduction to people, use it as kind of also a temperature taker. Is that topic really selling well with our audience? And then work that demand gen in there.
Okay.
Later.
All right. So share some of the experimentation that you've been doing. I mean, one of the things that you have, both the blessing and I don't know if curse is the right word, but it's a double-edged sword.
Sure,
that
sure.
you can do just about anything you want.
Yes.
But eventually you've got to get to some business benefit, right? So share maybe some stories about some of the experimentation you've been doing.
Sure. So, we've run the gamut. We've done a couple of different things from, we had one of our, I think most engaged with Facebook Lives was, I had a colleague who works on a product at HubSpot that's called Lead In. It's a WordPress plugin that helps with capturing leads as well. And she kind of is a big personality. She sat and just whipped out the camera, talked to Facebook for about 30 minutes about
on
marketing.
her personal account?
On the HubSpot account.
Okay,
I sat with her, made sure that she did nothing completely crazy, but a little bit crazy. And there was a point in the middle of that, which I think somebody asked her a question, and we were sitting in a conference room with a whiteboard, and she just literally turned the camera and got up and started whiteboarding. It was just very natural, very very well engaged with.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of an example of somewhere where she can also use a call to out in that video to, hey, you want to learn more about Lead In? Check it out.
Yeah.
Comment with your questions, things like that. So that's a good use case.
So it's a very humanized and
Very
unscripted
humanizing.
experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've also run in the other direction, right, where we have a podcast, for example, that is a podcast where we bring in some business leaders, some thought leaders. So we've had different segments where we have looked at the podcast. We've actually put the first couple of minutes of the podcast on Facebook Live. And then we've said, hey, do you want to learn more about this? Here's a download link to get there. So that's less direct lead generation, but it's an experimentation in trying to get people to click something as well.
Do you ever repurpose any of the live video content that you produce?
We do a little bit. I think we could definitely do more of that because it is a great source of content. One of the things for us that makes it difficult is making sure that we get our audio right. I know that that's in order to actually repurpose a video. We've had, I think, like a great panel once with some product engineers at Google and LinkedIn and all of that, and that's really good for us to actually send to people. The way that we would repurpose it is for our sales folks to send to people and say, hey, this is the thought leadership that HubSpot provides. But we're working on making sure that we get audio right so that all of that's really repurposable. I think that's really challenging too.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, before I get to my next question, I want to pause briefly for a message from our sponsor. In Social Business Journal Volume 8, published in cooperation with Trax, we look at the 5 biggest mistakes in social media monitoring. You'll discover how to avoid these mistakes so you can improve your social media monitoring by digging deeper into conversations, analysis, and trends so that you can realize the revenue-generating power of the social web. Additionally, you'll gain insights from over a dozen industry influencers who weigh in with their expert thoughts. Get your digital copy of Social Business Journal Volume 8 at socialbusinessengine.com/tracks, spelled TRACX, or just follow the link in the show notes for this episode. So you've kind of alluded to gear a little bit. Why don't we talk a little bit more about that? What's involved? You know, a lot of my listeners, maybe thinking, HubSpot, resources and, expensive gear. Well, what's involved?
So one of the best things about live video is very little needs to be involved. A lot of our videos have been shot just on an iPhone. So far, no Androids, but there may also be. I assume there's a possibility for that too. But we've shot a lot of videos on an iPhone. In that case, you want to make sure that your sound is working correctly, so you're in a quiet space. If you're not, I know there are different microphone plugins and splitters. If you have to find a good one that works. And then we have a little tripod too that sometimes we carry around so that somebody doesn't have to sit and hold the camera for that long. But that entire setup is actually really, really easy and does not cost that much either. We have used setups before where we have, like I mentioned, the camera that's a little bit higher grade, and then from that we have a media encoder which you can purchase from most tech websites, and then a couple of wires that connect to those things, and that feeds into a computer. And then there are, I think when you're looking at some of these live streaming, you can get some really fancy live streaming software that allows you to add lower thirds and other graphics on screen. I'd assume that you would do that if you were really doing some high production work, but you don't have to get that high tech at all.
Exactly. And most of those are fee based, right?
Yes.
So absolutely. That, in my opinion, I think for most brands, that's kind of phase 2.
Yes.
Kind of get your feet wet. Produce whether it's 2 or 200 live videos. Have some business use case, focused on why you're doing it.
Right.
And then just kind of figure out, what direction you think you might need to take it in from a technology standpoint.
Right. And I'd also put out there, too, that you don't actually have to have that high production value in order to have a good live video. Right. I think we talked about this, I think, as well. It's more about the content of the video and the engagement of the video. And in a lot of ways, I think Facebook has kind of designed this originally so that you look like you're in the feed just normally. It's a very natural thing. People on Facebook are expecting very natural-looking videos. I think just using an iPhone or an Android or whatever it is that you have available, BlackBerry, may be just all you need.
Yeah. Have you considered any kind of experimentation that's maybe out in the horizon that's either high risk or just kind of way out there? Is there anything that you can share that's out there?
I want to dig in a little high risk Like, I don't think we've done anything that is completely crazy.
Well, okay, so once upon a time, HubSpot used to do not live videos, but produce videos
Yes.
that were very high in the entertainment factor.
Yes.
Very high in the entertainment.
Yes.
So are you doing anything live that's high in the entertainment factor?
So probably not. We're not pushing it to the limit that we could yet. I think one of the biggest limits that we've pushed, for example, was taking people to an improv class. That was very on your feet, kind of camera moving around. That was relatively unusual. I don't think we have taken people really that far outside that zone yet. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't. I think, our annual event is coming up in November, and there will be some good use cases there as well. But I think one thing that we have learned, even through the videos that we create that are not live, is that I think it's more important to create something that actually feels really good for your brand than something that just feels entertaining.
Right.
So we're trying really hard, even in the live space, to walk that line between creating something that's entertaining, but something that's just really going to still feel instinctively like either, this is what HubSpot does, or this is what I like to see from HubSpot as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, HubSpot has an awesome culture, and I think that's one of the things that you're doing really well in your live video. Not that I've seen all the live videos, but I've seen some of them. And so maybe you can speak to that, how, there's a very simple use case that any business can really apply is, like, what's it like to work here?
Yeah.
What's it like to, be part of this team?
Right. I have a split personality as a demand gen marketer, but also as a HubSpotter. I think both of those are extremely important. But most of my time and energy is usually focused on demand gen. But company culture is a huge use case for using social video. And I think actually one of our most popular organic videos, so something where we just turned it on without telling anybody beforehand and just wanted to get that engagement organically, was a tour of our Dublin office. So we opened up a new office in downtown Dublin, Ireland. We had some very charming Irish folks going around the office. And rewatching that video too, they did a really good job of stopping along the way and of showing just the different kinds of people and personalities and things that are around the office. And people loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So last question. Let's have some conversation around this,
Sure.
Chelsea. So talk to the person who's either never done live video or they just haven't really committed to it as a strategy. So what are the things that they should be thinking about, maybe planning for, just kind of the beginner, if you will, at the B2B level? It doesn't have to be B2B, but just getting started.
Sure. So I think when you're just getting started in video, there is kind of an element of you want to plan enough so that you have an idea of what's going on, but you don't want to overplan and overthink it, because with live video, it's really, it's really about the organic nature of it. So I think when you are doing live video, it's really easy to start with something like company culture tour, or if you have something that's happening in your office that really builds on your brand. So if you have a guest that's coming in, trying to pull them aside to talk for a few minutes, or if you have some people, even that you can, even if you can talk to a camera for a little bit about your marketing strategy, or talk to someone that works at your company and have that back and forth conversation, it can be that easy. I think I would say think about what content already does well. Think about what people are already looking at, and topics, exactly. What do people like to see from you? Try and plan something that is engaging and dynamic around that. Try and plan something where people can see an element of collaboration or communication, or where that person is engaging with the audience that is watching. I think making sure that you have good Wi-Fi and good audio is really important.
Exactly.
Good lighting is also good.
Yes, lighting, critical. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it's thought about enough, lighting, but that can be a huge difference. I think it's always fair. You can always test something and delete it, and on your personal account as well.
Right.
We do that sometimes.
Explain how you do that. You mentioned.
I have a slightly unique way of doing that. So when you go on Facebook and you go to broadcast something, you can change it from from my friends can see to only me. Somewhere in there, I think it's an icon that looks like a globe somewhere. But you can change that, and oftentimes I will flip it to only me, and that way I can test the visual, see how everything works, and then just watch it back and see how it comes off.
Nobody else sees it.
Nobody else sees it, but the other thing I think is some of the best live videos are just people having fun with what they're talking about, with what they're doing. And so the other thing about getting started with live videos, it's easy to be really, really nervous, really concerned. And I think the more fun you can have with it, the better.
What I would add is, depending on the size of a company, brands should consider trying different people on camera.
Yes.
Because there's different personalities. You gave the example of that, I don't remember her name if you said her name, but the person who was, just in a conference room or whatever, and she went up on the whiteboard. So different personalities, different subject matter experts.
Yes.
And you never know. You might discover someone. I call them the Chewbacca moms. When the Chewbacca mom, went viral and had 7.5 million. I take that concept, Chelsea, and I say, do you have Chewbacca moms in your employee base?
Right.
People that have been there all along, just like, Candace Payne, who was just, I don't mean just, but, she wasn't a celebrity.
Right.
She was, just some lady who went to, I forget what store she went to, and bought the mask.
One of the big ones.
I think it was Kohl's, if I'm not mistaken. And she became famous because of what she did. So, experiment with different people in your brand, and you may have a Chewbacca mom kind of a phenomenon without even knowing it.
Right. If you've ever wanted to be a casting agent or a casting director, this is your chance at your company. Absolutely. I think we've discovered a lot of fun folks at HubSpot that way. There was something else that I was going to say about getting started with live video. It's escaping me now.
Okay. Well, one other thing that I would say is when we're talking about gear.
Yes.
I really think it's important for people to not worry about that out of the gate. When you're just getting started, just pull out your smartphone or a tablet. Most tablets have the recording feature, and just experiment with it. Just start it. But it's also important to make sure that you're aligned with your content strategy and your business goals. So in the early days, if you're just experimenting just to get a feel for it, then you can experiment without having too much alignment with strategy. But if you're really going to start to take it to the next level, then make sure you've got the right buy-in, you're aligned with the content strategy.
Right.
If you need executive buy-in, depending on the size of the company, some companies are small, some companies are real big, so make sure you've got the right people involved. And if you're in a bigger company, make sure that maybe you've talked to the lawyers and that they know what you're doing, and and they kind of give you the blessing that you can go out there and talk about that, so that you have that conversation ahead of time, as opposed to afterwards, and potentially worst case scenario, you get fired because you did something that that they just think is really bad. So just all these kind of things to be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have before we do our Facebook Lives now, we've learned this because we've messed it up before, and everyone will mess it up at some point. Is we now have a production checklist. So before we're getting started, we know what equipment that we need, what space we need. We make sure we're all on the same page about that, who the moderators are, what the schedule looks like. And we also have questions like, are we going to need to ask lawyers, or do we need to do any pre-promotion? And usually it's just a good gut check. And if you have a good social media policy in place, hopefully you already have an idea of that. But that's a great point.
Speaking of great points, pre-promotion.
Yes.
Like my poolside sales chat every Friday at 3:15. So I promote that.
Yes.
And I start promoting it around Wednesday. Hey, catch me this Friday. I'm talking about this topic. Promoting the fact that you're going to do a live video event.
You have now hit on the other thing that I forgot that I was going to say. So thank you for that. I think it's really promotion of some sort is really important, because when you're doing these videos, I guess it depends exactly where you are. But let's say that you're somewhere like Facebook or Periscope. The entire intent of the platform is to surface that content to more people, to kind of get it past the algorithmic, slump, and to get it served live to people. So there are two good ways that we found to do that. One is pre-promotion, and if you let people know when to come back, you can even send them a Google Calendar invite, or you can ask them for an email and say, hey, we're going to do a live broadcast on X thing. We'd love for you to come join us. We can send you an email if you leave us your email as a reminder. That actually has worked really well for us. We also find that when you are broadcasting, especially if you're doing it for a couple of minutes, to encourage engagement on the broadcast, we start by asking questions too, like comment with where you're from, or when we were on Periscope, we always used to start with, what did you eat for lunch today? Because everyone can answer that question, and people, it's something for them to offer, and that would get that engagement and get people a little bit more relaxed. And so I think with a lot of the things that we're doing now as well, when we try and get that engagement, that's a signal to these networks that people are liking what you're doing and they want to share. It also helps people want to stick around if they feel invested in that broadcast. So we'll ask for that engagement. We'll try and get the shares. We'll also resurface what we're talking about, because anyone who comes across these videos is not necessarily coming across them at the beginning. So we might say, if we started a broadcast and said, hey, we're here, at Content Marketing World, we're doing this, we're talking to, Bernie Borges, and then a couple minutes later, if we notice there are more viewers coming in, we might say, hey, just as a reminder, this is what we're doing.
Because it's live.
It's live.
And that audience might not be the same as when you started.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Exactly, yeah. So keeping people really aware of what is happening is a huge help, and keeping them around.
Yeah, terrific. Well, Chelsea, I could keep this conversation going, but I'm going to stay true to my podcast audience here, and I'd like to take it to a wrap. And so why don't you tell people where they can learn more, connect with you, as well as where they can catch more HubSpot live video.
You say catch. I'm thinking about Pokemon Go now. So So my Twitter handle is Chelsea like NY. I was named after New York City, so that's where that comes from. Chelsea like NY. You can always tweet. I think HubSpot has a lot of really great resources on live video. I don't have a specific resource to point to because we have several. So I would say Google HubSpot and Facebook Live is a lot of or live video.
So certainly someone following the Facebook page.
Facebook page, yes. Well, actually, if you were to check out our Facebook page as well, you'd find several of our live videos. We have a grouping of them at the bottom, and certainly please let me know what you think. Tweet, give us suggestions. We're always looking to learn more.
Awesome. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for joining me here today on the Social Business Engine podcast.
Thank you for having me, Bernie. It's been so much fun.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Chelsea Hunersen, Social Media Marketing Manager at HubSpot, and that you gained insights into how HubSpot uses live video and maybe some ideas that you might consider as well. Now remember, our sponsor for this episode is Trax, a leader in social business. Through a singular platform, Trax allows multiple users to extract vital social media intelligence to better understand customers, competitors, and influencers to make those insights actionable. Check out Social Business Journal Volume 8, The 5 Biggest Mistakes in Social Media Monitoring, to learn how to avoid these mistakes and how to improve your social media monitoring. Get your copy of this journal at socialbusinessengine.com/Trax. That's TRACX. And you'll also find this link on the show notes page for this episode at our website at socialbusinessengine.com. Hey, I have one more invitation for you. I invite you to become a member of our Social Business Engine community. Membership is free, and it provides access to premium content that we only make available to members because membership has its privileges. Our community is made up of thousands of business professionals who, just like you, want to learn more about social media strategy, social technology, and social culture to create better business results and to improve their careers. It's easy to become a member. Just visit our website at socialbusinessengine.com, and remember, it's free. Well, that's going to do it for episode 131. I want to thank my guest once again, Chelsea Hunersen, Social Media Marketing Manager at HubSpot. This is Bernie Borges wishing you continued success on your social business journey.
Thank you for listening to the Social Business Engine podcast. Be sure to tune in again next week to reconnect with Bernie Borges for more insights, inspiration, and practical advice on social business. Visit socialbusinessengine.com to catch even more content on social strategy that will rock your business and your career.